What up? What up? Yeah, we're back. We're still here, even though the fucking house is on fire. But it's birds deep. Playoff times is upon us. We're gonna switch it up today. I got Cool McCann above me from Eagles Elite Podcast, and below me I got the NFL Genius, also known on here as Mean Gene. Tell him who you are, Gene.
I mean Gene. That's who I am.
You mean Gene.
That's it.
Yeah.
Look, I'm gonna be very real with y'all today. Very real. Very real with y'all today. I am pissed off. I am frustrated. I am fed up. And a win versus the lousy Bucks isn't going to fix it. Just want to be clear.
Yeah, I agree.
I was pissed off last week before that. I'm not even pissed off anymore. I've accepted the fact that this team is who they are.
I don't agree with that. I think that the coaching staff is who they are. I think the team could be excellent. Let me ask you a question real quick. If Shane Steichen was coaching this team and the defensive coordinator was Brian Flores, do you think, with same roster, same personnel, do you think this team is what they are? You think the same situation?
Absolutely not.
I think on defense.
But before we go there, is Shane Steichen here?
He's not.
Is Brian Flores here? No. So this team with the current coaches who are also part of the team is who they are. Because he sucks so bad, these coordinators are so just incompetent that there's no way for them to improve. So they are who they are as a team. You give them better coaching, absolutely they're a different team, but they're not going to get it. They have this same trash, hot urine, pissed on. Let me stop there before I go too
Is
far.
urine ever not hot?
Well, it depends. If you pee outside and it's cold, it gets cold pretty fast.
I mean, sometimes
It's actually
really.
Sometimes it's warm, but I mean hot, like hot urine.
Godfrey, it seems cool. I get what you're saying, but I just don't think this team is what they are. I think the coaching
they are.
With the coaching, yeah. But
yes,
like
the coach is part of the team.
I just feel like that the roster and the players are much better than what we're seeing on the field.
I'm not saying they're not.
And I feel like that if we had,
I don't think that's true. This roster is definitely incomplete. But I don't care if Brian Flores is here. You can't tell me that rotation that they have on the D line is satisfactory. Yeah, I can't put that all on coaches. Players got to make plays too, man.
You're absolutely wrong, and that's okay.
I'm not. It shows on film. It shows on film.
If I went player for player with Minnesota's defense and Philadelphia's defense,
I'll take Minnesota's defense.
You're out of your mind.
No, I'm not, dude.
You could take Minnesota's defense. You could take San Francisco's defense.
And by the way,
you could take Carolina's defense. That's fine. It doesn't really matter.
Player for player, you're taking Minnesota's defense over Philadelphia's.
Right now, yeah, man. I mean, listen, and you're saying that about Brian Flores, and if you look at the last 3 games, they didn't do so hot defensively, even though, you're saying he has hot garbage there. He's not a miracle worker. He's a great coach, but you can't expect him to come in here and be a miracle worker too. I mean, so I would take Ivan Pace over any of our middle linebackers. I would take Danielle Hunter over any of our defensive ends right now. I'm sorry.
Do you take Danielle Hunter over Hassan Reddick?
Have you not seen how the season's played out?
Yes,
I'm going by results on the field.
No, but I'm asking you, if you were starting your own team for 1 year, you would take Danielle Hunter over Hassan Reddick.
Yeah, well, also that's kind of a trick question because they're not the same type of DN, but they're both playing out of a different, one's stand up, one's not, right? But I'm looking at a guy with 16 and a half sacks.
I would take Nakobe Dean if he was healthy.
Well, no, but I'm asking.
I like what Nakobe Dean was doing when he was healthy.
I want to just understand if you would take Hassan Reddick or Danielle Hunter if you were starting a team tomorrow for 1 year.
Right now,
coaching staff. I'm asking who you think's a better player.
Right now, I'm taking a sack daddy. I'm taking Danielle Hunter.
You're crazy.
Okay. I mean, I don't think I am, and there's other people that would disagree with you too. I mean, I love Hassan Reddick, and he's not playing.
And you also just named the 2 best
players
too. On Minnesota. I'm telling you right now, you go through the rest of that defense, you're not taking Minnesota player for player over Philadelphia. You're just not doing it.
I take I would take Harrison Smith in my as my safety.
Okay, so let's just say
I would also take Bynum as well. Yes, I would take him.
Okay, so Bynum. So you take Cameron Bynum. Okay, let's just say I gave you all 4 of those. Are you taking Yaquin Roy, Yaquin Wah, or Josh Sweat?
I mean, what has Josh Sweat done this year?
Or Jalen Carter?
What has Josh Sweat done this year?
Jonathan Bullard or Fletcher Cox?
I'm taking Cox.
Hold on. Are you taking Darius Slay or Akili Evans?
I'll take Slay.
Are you taking Bradbury or Byron Murphy? Never been good entire career.
I'll take one of the rookies over Bradbury right now. Yes, I'll take a trash can over Bradbury.
Are you taking bro? Like I can go through the whole defense.
That's reckless. I mean, he's not as good as he's been.
It's just wrong for you to say
reckless, bro.
You would take their personnel over ours. They're coached poorly. They're in a bad scheme.
Yeah, I'm not saying that they're not, but for you to think that a coach would come here and fix all the problems, I think that's reckless as well. No, it wouldn't, man. Everybody thinks that. Every fan base thinks that. Oh, we just need a coach change and it gets fixed.
Godfrey,
the players have no responsibility in the performance. None.
No, but the scheme matters.
Scheme does matter.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Serious question. So, if we had a guy who understood defense, right, who understood the principles of defense, who figured out and realized, hey, my young corners need to play. They need practice time. Practice needs to be serious. Because from what Javon Hargrave has come out and said, the practice ain't practicing like it's supposed to be.
Well, see, that now I agree with you there, but also at the same time, I
hadn't got to the question. I hadn't got to the question yet. So the question I want to ask is, do you feel that there's no responsibility for the coaching staff for guys being out of position, for guys not tackling, for guys looking like they've given up? Is that all the players, or is that coaching?
I'm not saying it's all the players. I'm saying both things can be true. Players can be playing bad, and the scheme can be bad as well. I don't think that's crazy.
If you bring a guy in, and we talk about this a lot for quarterbacks, but it goes for entire team. So let's talk about the defense. If you bring a guy in who understands the personnel that he has, understands the deficiencies that he has, and works with it, instead of just saying, this is the system we're going to play, be darned if the players fit it or not. I don't care. This is what we're going to do, even if they don't know where they're supposed to be at. Week 18. So if you bring in a guy who's good at defense, you bring in a guy, we'll use the name Brian Flores, but there's several other names you could use.
Yeah, correct. Wink Martindale.
Yeah. So you bring in a guy who understands defense and understands what he has and says, okay, this is what the team's giving me. So if I'm weak in the middle of the secondary, I got to make sure I play all these guys in a rotation a lot. Because if you look on the team, there are guys who are not getting minutes that are listed as defensive linemen. There's guys who shouldn't be on the 53-man roster that are, and those spots could be taken by defensive linemen. Quez Watkins should not be on our 53-man roster. I don't care what anybody has to say. Well, he should not be on the 53-man roster.
So hold on.
Why is Tanner McKee a third quarterback? Why do we got 3 quarterbacks eligible every week? These are spots that could be going to other guys to help out the defense.
Where do you think the Philadelphia Eagles rank in scoring defense, Godfrey?
How many points they've given up?
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, but
scoring defense
after the last 6 weeks, it's got to be bad. It's got to be probably 28 to 32 last 6 weeks.
Okay. Well, no, for the whole year,
I'd say about
20.
20. Okay. What do you think? Cool.
I'd say about 26.
The Eagles rank 30th in scoring defense in the NFL. Where do you think they rank for pass defense?
I mean, it's got to be low.
That's got to be 30.
31.
That's not a surprise.
They're 10th in run defense, 31st in pass defense, and they are 30th in scoring defense. Want to go to Minnesota since they're not so hot? They're, just to be clear, Minnesota is 16th in total defense. They are 24th in passing defense.
Still better than us.
Oh, they are. They're better everywhere, except run defense. They're a little bit worse. They are. Oh no, I'm sorry. They're better than us in run defense. They're 8th, and in scoring defense, they're 13th. Okay, let me just go through one more, because I guarantee you, if you want to make arguments, all you can make all the arguments you want about the Vikings personnel and the Vikings because it's better. It's not. It That's okay. I'll give you another example. The Los Angeles Rams scoring defense is 19th. Passing defense is 12th. Sorry, rushing defense is 12th. Passing defense is 20th. And overall defense is 20th. All better than the Eagles. Would you take the Eagles personnel or would you take the Los Angeles Rams personnel? You got Aaron Donald and a bunch of 6th-round draft picks.
Mm-hmm. Scheme will help. I'm saying
scheme is it. It's the only fucking thing.
No,
you can put a bunch of goddamn high schools out there with a great scheme.
No, you can't. That's not true. You can't tell me that you're happy with all the talent that's on the defense. Come on.
I think this talent is efficient enough for a good defensive coordinator to be able to make this a top 10 defense. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying to be the best defense in football. I'm saying that there's enough talent on this defense to make them a top 10 defense in football.
That defense you're talking about with a good scheme, they got smoked by Jake Browning, the Vikings. The Lions put up 30 on them. The Packers put up 33.
Okay.
The last game I guess really didn't count, but that was another 30 to another team. They held shitty teams to low scores, like the Raiders. They held to 0 points.
I wish that we held the friggin' Cardinals to 0 points.
The Bears they held to 12. So
or
my
Giants.
point, yeah. Well, listen, the scheme is definitely a problem. I'm just not saying like if you put a coordinator in there, it's going to correct everything. I think some players are a little long in the tooth. And I think we don't have as much depth as we should. I think Josh Sweat has had a down year. I don't think that has anything to do with scheme on the D line as far as certain aspects like that. You shouldn't be putting Reddick in coverage.
You want to know why you're wrong? Do you want to know why you're wrong? Because if they had a rotation, Josh Sweat wouldn't be having a down second half of the year.
Isn't that a personnel problem, not having a rotation?
What? They're not rotating their first round fucking draft pick, Godfrey.
Yeah, I think you're in denial about the performance of those guys.
All right, so
I'm not the only one saying that.
All right, check it, Godfrey.
You got a blind spot for those dudes. I'm telling you, they're not playing up the potential.
What dudes?
Tackles. Jordan Davis is not playing up the potential, and I guess Jalen Carter hit a rookie wall.
And I was just talking about Nolan Smith, bro.
All right, he's not even on the field.
That's the point.
But that's a personnel issue as well.
It's not a personnel issue. That's a scheme issue.
I'm not saying that's Nolan Smith's fault. I'm saying
it's not a personnel issue.
That's a coaching issue.
That's a coaching issue.
Okay, we're gonna see because we'll see how that plays out. Listen, I heard, there's coaching issues all over this team. There's coaching issues.
I need you to do me a favor, right? And I say this with all due respect because I do love you. I need you to take off your I'm listening and regurgitating what I hear on WIP.
No, you're wrong. Just because I disagree with you, you can eat that. That's bullshit.
Bro, you're like, I heard. It's all you say. You heard.
What am I supposed to
What have you seen?
I told you what I see. I told you what I see on the field. I'm telling you, you're not getting to play from your D tackles that you needed. Okay? That's part of that rotation. You're in denial if you don't see that on the field. Tell me how that play's been.
Godfrey, I'm going to tell you why it doesn't play out on the field. Because the first 10 weeks of the season, the D tackles were playing out of their mind.
Not now, though.
You want to know why?
Oh, it's all
because they're not fucking rotating, and they're dead, and their legs are gone. Yes, they're playing like shit now.
Part of the game. What about the beginning part of the game,
bro? They played more snaps than they've ever played in their entire life by week 13.
Let me explain something to you, Godfrey. Maybe this will help. If you take a guy that was last year in a rotation where he played half the snaps, right? Which is all the guys that were on this defense last year. They had a heavy rotation. They used the guys. There are guys on that bench. They're not putting them in the game, but there's guys on that bench. There's guys on the active roster. So that's not a personnel decision. That is idiocy as the coaches. That's not personnel because there's guys there. But if you're playing the same guys the whole entire game, the whole entire season, this thing called burnout that happens.
So were you satisfied with the depth that Howie provided in the beginning of the season on both sides of the ball? Because I don't think that we had a lot of depth this year.
So let me give you a breakdown of right now who's on the defensive line, okay? I'm going to give you the position. Defensive end, there's Josh Sweat and Brandon Graham. At left defensive tackle, there's Fletcher Cox, Milton Williams, and Moro Ojomo. At right defensive tackle, there's Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Marlon Tupeluto. But a lot of times, Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter are playing together, right? So who are we seeing on the field? We're not seeing Marlon Tupeluto much at all. We're not seeing Moro Ojomo much at all. And Nolan Smith, I mean, he just disappeared. And then we got Hassan Reddick and Nolan Smith. Hassan Reddick played most of the game because Nolan Smith never plays. So what I'm saying to you is there's guys that are not being used. So if you come to me and you say, oh, I'm not happy with the depth. Well, why don't we use the guys that we have and see if they suck or not? We don't know if they suck. We don't know if they'll get better because all they're doing is sitting on the bench. And then people like you and these freaking guys in the media keep talking about other guys suck because they're playing more than they should be because the coaching staff is stupid.
The coaching staff ain't great either. I think the team's bad all the way around, man.
They're not though. They're not a bad roster.
Not being used properly. They look bad because they're not being used properly.
By the way, I just want to point something out to you, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just me, but can I ask you a question? Cool. You watched the second half because I didn't. It was 24-0 at the half, right? And the final score was 27-10. Would you say the defense played better or worse in the second half?
The Giants' offense did not give a flying flip in the second half because they knew that we weren't going to score enough points.
No, I don't know. Did the Eagles play a little better defensively in the second half?
You could say
they allowed 3 points.
Say they did, but the Giants they weren't trying anymore.
Okay. Well, the reason I bring that up is because
Moro
Ojomu, Nolan Smith, and Tupiopolo played the majority of their snaps in the second half.
And they weren't bad.
Fresh legs on their defensive line.
Yeah, they were fresh. It wasn't bad. They were fresh.
And they allowed 3 points.
And I would say that normally I would say, yeah, it was good that they got there, but you could tell the Giants, they were playing a lot of backup players by then, because they already realized these guys can't score.
They were on cruise control. They knew we threw up the white flag.
We had Marcus Mariota overthrowing people.
They didn't give a shit.
Quez Watkins is out there celebrating like he freaking done something
because they almost had 100 yards. And he made an Instagram post about him scoring a touchdown.
I can't stand Quez Watkins.
Oh my God, bro.
I want him and he needs to go. Gosh.
That's why one of my biggest concerns coming in the offseason was our wide receiver depth. One gets hurt, AJ goes out. Now we're looking at I don't have a problem with Zacchaeus, but now we're looking at Quez Watkins, Julio.
Here's the thing. Julio, I've said this the whole time. I wanted Julio because I understood.
I like him too.
He's not going to go through a whole season and be the Julio of old.
Sure. But no one expects
for
that.
A game or two, he could be that guy for at least part of the game. The problem is this freaking idiot head coach and his lackey, all they want to do is feed Quez Watkins.
I can't.
That's the problem. It's not that there's not other guys. I'd rather see Britton Covey in the game than Quez Watkins.
Yeah, it's
at least he'll go fight for the ball. If you want to complete a pass to Quez Watkins, you have to put the ball in his hands with no defender that can knock it down. He's not going to reach for it. He's not going to fight for it. He's not going to do anything but turn and catch.
That's by the way, all the people that were claiming they wanted Rashad Penny to play all year, you got your wish, and now you know why he doesn't play.
He can't pick up a blitz
at all. He doesn't know how to pick up a block. He blocked.
It was so bad. It was so bad.
I'm not even gonna lie. He can't block. He's a guy that you're putting in
at all.
Run.
Yeah,
right. He can't block. You're putting him in to run.
He can't block at all.
If
you're putting him in the game, you're basically telling the defense. The reason people don't play running backs that can't block is because when you put them in the game, you're telling the defense that you're running the ball.
But here's the thing, G. This has been my argument all year. Bad. If you don't want to, if you know he can't block, then cut him.
I agree.
If you want a guy that can block and he can't block, cut him.
Well, that's another example of a one-year mercenary deal that did not.
Trey Sermon. We could have kept Trey Sermon. Trey Sermon blocks.
Trey Sermon, yeah. So
that's what I'm saying.
You could add him for free.
I'm gonna tell you what's gonna happen, right? The Philadelphia Eagles are gonna fire both their coordinators this offseason.
That's what's gonna happen, yes.
And they're going to try to bring in high leverage coordinators.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, I would like you guys to give me the coordinators that you would like to bring in before we do a Nick Sirianni because I have a whole list of coaches and we're going to play Nick Sirianni and then we're going to break down the Bucs. But before you guys go, I took some time to really think out what could possibly happen. I need the Eagles to bring in Frank Wright to run the offense. And I want the Eagles to do whatever they have to take. I don't care what it costs, whatever you have to do. I want Wink Martindale running my defense.
Well, you just stole mine.
Give me Frank.
You just
Yeah,
took mine.
I Frank can stay in retirement. I'm not impressed by Frank. Everybody wants to make excuses for him. I haven't seen anything. Give me Eric Bieniemy.
Frank sucks as a
Eric
head,
Bieniemy's gonna have a head
coach.
coaching job, so you can't use
Frank
him.
Wright sucks.
Well, if he
as a
does
head
get hired,
coach, but he's good as an offense coordinator.
I mean, we'll see. I mean, that was a debate that went in on a Philly for ages
He
after
was good.
he left.
He was good when he was with us as a coordinator. He's not a good head coach. That doesn't mean he's not a good coordinator. Those are two completely different things.
I'll take anybody instead of who's right now.
I'm just saying.
I'm gonna tell you something right now, bro.
And Frank Wright
I
knows
think Frank Wright
Philly.
has gotten the worst deal out of anybody ever as a head coach. So we can say he's a bad head coach, but I think situation matters. And if you need me to spell it out for you, I will. He went to Jim Irsay's team and Andrew Luck retired. Okay. And after he went to Jim Irsay's team and Andrew Luck retired, he got retread after retread with 1 year to develop them, and then he got fired. Then Carolina hires him. They have the first overall, or they get up to get the first overall pick. He tells the ownership group, I want CJ Stroud. That is my guy. Him, McCown, Deuce Staley, all sold on CJ Stroud. The ownership group, David Tepper goes, nah, I want Bryce. You guys figure it out. And when it didn't work out with the guy that wasn't his guy, we blame Frank. I don't blame Frank.
You thought Bryce was better than CJ Stroud at the beginning of the
I
season.
still do.
Man, that guy is jumping over lines throwing the ball.
By the way, do me a favor. If you've never watched college football, don't tell me if one player is better than another after watching 1 year.
Well, I can see.
I thought CJ Stroud was better coming out, and I watched college football.
And that's fine. You can have that opinion. But I watched Bryce Young and CJ Stroud play in big moments, in big games, and Bryce Young looked better.
Yeah, but okay, if you want to say that, you're going to tell me that the windows aren't smaller in the pros when you throw?
100% are.
Okay, so it's a lot different throwing to a receiver.
When Alabama's playing Georgia and Ohio State's playing Michigan, Bryce Young looked better versus Georgia, which I considered a better defense than CJ Stroud looked versus Michigan. And that's just my opinion. And if you watch those two play football in college, and a lot of guys that watch college thought Bryce was better than CJ. A lot of professional executives and scouts thought Bryce was better than CJ. Remember the whole CJ scored a 19 on his S2 and no one's ever been successful after scoring a 19 on their S2?
Well, we can't say that anymore, can we?
Exactly. You're right.
S2 test. That
Yeah,
never made any sense.
Plus, on top of that, though, the speed of the game is different from college to pro. So you really have to see how they react to it when they're in the field.
The closest thing that you can get to the pros is Alabama, bro. Like,
I still think there's a huge
I'm
difference
saying,
in coverages you're facing consistently.
So CJ Stroud against Georgia, right?
Yeah.
As Dylan said in the comments. CJ Stroud, without his number one receiver, still went out there and put himself in a position.
Incorrect. Marvin Harrison Jr. was there and he played incredible that game.
He got hurt in that game.
He got hurt near the end of the game.
But he wasn't there the whole game, Gene.
They scored 34 of their 41
right, but without
and he looked terrible when he walked off the field.
Without their number one receiver, they still got down and got in field goal position. They missed the field goal. That's not CJ Stroud's fault. CJ Stroud did enough to beat Georgia.
Just to be clear, they had another first round pick at the wide receiver position on the field in Emeka Egbuka. Just to be clear.
Is he Marvin Harrison Jr.?
No, but Emeka Egbuka is still a first round draft pick as a wide receiver.
Okay,
bring in Josh McCown. Someone said Josh McCown for offensive coordinator.
I don't mind that. You give me yours. I'm asking for yours.
I mean, me personally, I do think Bieniemy will get some head coaching interviews, but if he doesn't get hired, which is a possibility, especially with Jim Harbaugh being in the pool and Bill Belichick and possibly Pete Carroll being in the pool.
I think all three of them in the pool. I think all three of them get jobs.
So it makes the selections a lot smaller, and I don't see Eric Bieniemy beating those three guys out, beating the guy out from Houston and beating out Johnson.
Bobby Slovak is the first year offensive coordinator. So you saying you don't see Eric Bieniemy beating out Bobby Slovak? You're just not. You're either racist or you don't know.
Dude, stop with the racist shit. It's not because I'm racist.
Eric Bieniemy's been a good offense coordinator for 7 years. Bobby Slovak's been an OC for 1 year.
Didn't I just say I want him on the Eagles?
I thought you said that if he's not going to beat Eric Bieniemy,
I don't think he's going to get a head coaching job. I'm being realistic. I want him on the Eagles because I think he's a good coach. If that doesn't happen, is the man not going to coach? Does he get hired in Does he get hired in
I think he
in
I think he's the
Washington?
next coach. I think he's the next coach of the Atlanta Falcons.
Okay,
That's
possible.
his opinion, though.
100% possible.
I think
But
he gets an opportunity somewhere. I'm not exactly sure where, but I think he gets an opportunity somewhere. So
Washington,
I
maybe.
picked the same two that Gene picked. The reason I picked him is Wink Martindale. I want a guy who's not really worried about being a head coach, who's going to stay there, who's going to coach up the defense and hope the defense develop. So that's why I picked Wink Martindale.
Why do you think he left?
Brian Flores. I was
He
thinking
got an
about Brian
argument with
Flores.
Dable because Dable fired the linebackers coach.
Yeah, Dable fired a guy he didn't want fired, so he cussed Dable out and said "F you" and left.
Exactly, that's exactly what happened.
No, that's what happened. You know,
Okay, got some fire in him. I like it.
Yeah, he wants his guys.
I heard he walked out, but I didn't hear why.
Yeah,
why that happened.
He cussed him out.
Yeah, Dable fired his linebackers coach, and when Wink Martindale had heard that, he cursed out Dable and then quit.
Yeah, so I like a guy like that. I like a guy who's
with some fire.
Some fire. You know, who's going to stick up for his staff. You're not going to try to blame the fact of how we played on my linebacker coach. That's BS. There was a lot that was wrong with the Giants, and having a different linebacker coach wouldn't have made a big difference. So I like that. I want someone there that's going to develop. That's the key word. You look at guys like Brian Flores and other candidates, year or two, they're going to go be a head coach. Then we're in the same situation again because we're probably going to have the same idiot head coach who should be fired. So he needs guys who are going to stick around because he's an idiot.
You know why I want someone like Eric Bieniemy, and if you can tell me who is an Eric Bieniemy type that be out there, is because I think Jalen, what he would benefit from most is hard coaching, and I think Nick Sirianni.
Oh, Eric Bieniemy also loves running the football, which I love.
Yeah, yes. and naturally because he was a running back. So my thing is I think this team lacks hard coaching, and I think Bieniemy is good at that.
You know who our offensive coordinator needs to be?
Yep.
Deuce Staley needs to be our freaking offensive coordinator.
I'll take him too.
I'll take him too, but I don't think he'd come back here. I think
Deuce Staley and Wink Martindale. That's what we need.
I would do that. I would take that completely, 100%. Josh McCown, Frank Wright, Deuce Staley. I would take any one of those three to be my offensive coordinator.
I think McCown, he hasn't done it for a while, but I think he's going to be good at it too. So I wouldn't mind him. I'd like the other two firsts because they got.
By the way, if Eric Bieniemy is available and doesn't get a head coaching job, I would pay him. I would give him a blank check. But the problem is, you're going to get him for 1 year, and you're going to rent.
And make sure you bring in someone with him that can take over next year.
Sure,
and not some guy that's just going to run a stupid offense because.
I think he's one of those guys that knows how to coach a quarterback hard, and I like that. And I think that's a rare ability these days. And I think he was able to do that with Patrick Mahomes, and he doesn't get credit for that development, and he should.
But the
more people don't.
Godfrey, though, is
Godfrey. I love that you come along to Eric Bieniemy. I really do.
Yeah,
because I remember we talked about this a year ago, and you talked about Eric Bieniemy not being ready to be a head coach because he only had Patrick Mahomes. And now, after a year of watching the way the Chiefs kind of fell apart and the way the Washington Commanders, so I appreciate that. I respect that out of you.
He did more with Sam Howell than most people could have.
There's not a lot of people that can do what you just did, though. Nobody can admit fault in their takes. Like I just stood here and told you, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud did much better than Bryce Young, and I stood on that take. I still think that Bryce Young could be a better quarterback than CJ Stroud, but like I can admit fault in my takes 100%, and I appreciate that you just did that. So I just wanted to make that.
Yeah, Bieniemy is, it's hard to tell when you're. I don't know why my mic keeps changing levels. I don't think you guys can hear it, but
I know
Bieniemy, that guy didn't have a lot to work with this year as far as a quarterback goes, and I think he made Sam Howell look more relevant than he actually should, based off his talent level. And he won't get that credit as much because with the record shows and all that. But, if you watch the games, you see that. And I think he's good at coaching players hard. And part of the reason
who led the NFL in passing yards up until week 18.
Who, Howell?
Sam Howell.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And part of that's a product of the horrible defense too, toward the end when, got rid of their two pass rushers. But the thing about, so you heard Shady McCoy come out against them. You heard other people come out against them. And I kind of paused when I heard that because part of me wants to believe it, but part of me wants to say, well, maybe Shady McCoy didn't like to be coached hard. But I didn't hear Patrick Mahomes come out against them. I didn't hear all those other players where they had success. And I think there's a fine line. When you coach hard and you don't have success, people tend to react a different way. When you coach hard and have success, then, you get credit for it. So people react very negatively and they can't take that impact on them. But I do think, I think he's really good at helping also offensive player mature. And
question, Godfrey. I feel where you're coming from, but a question for you. So let's say we do get Eric Bieniemy, right? He's gonna coach Hurts hard. He's gonna hold him accountable. Would you say to at least some extent Shane Steichen did the same thing when he was here? Maybe not coach him hard, but like he held him accountable. He didn't just let him go out and do whatever. He was like, "Look, man, you gotta do this. You gotta do this. You gotta do this." He spent time.
Sure.
Okay.
I think they gave him more freedom this year with audibles
Right.
than they did last year, and I think that's a mistake. And
So-
they're
okay,
telling you that, the players.
So here's the thing. So if that's the case, let's say we get Eric Bieniemy for a year. He's going to be gone after a year. If he comes in, he turns his team around. This team looks a lot better. He's going to be gone. So now, who's the guy that you're going to get to replace Eric Bieniemy that's going to continue to do the same thing? Because if not, we're just going to revert like we did this year. So that's the problem. If you go and you get a guy that you know is only going to be a rental.
So they didn't restock the cupboards with coordinators very well. I mean, that's part of the problem, right? Brian Johnson was, they brought him in.
Rinse and repeat.
Yeah,
Same thing they did with Doug Peterson. Rinse and repeat.
And Brian Johnson,
you got to get a guy who I feel like you want to try to get guys who are going to be around for a couple of years. Frank Wright has to rebuild the way people see him, whether it's fair or not. He has to rebuild the way people see him. So
I mean, listen, the enemy had to rebuild himself from success. So why shouldn't Frank Reich have to rebuild himself?
Right. So what I'm saying is, if you get a guy like Frank Wright, you get a guy like Josh,
stays around,
newer to coach, they're going to be around longer. If you get Eric Bieniemy for a year, we could have a magical season next year. It could be good enough that we could win a Super Bowl, but he's probably gonna be gone.
Yep.
Then you got
when you get a good offensive coordinator, though, the shelf life of how long they're going to be here with you is going to be short. I mean, you think I'm crazy with the Texans thing, but people are going to be hot on that offensive coordinator.
Right, but that's what succession is for. You bring in guys that you can identify and say, okay, if he leaves, this guy can step in. I'm helping prep this guy. I have Eric helping prep this guy. Say we get Eric Bieniemy. If you have a coach who has common sense, which we don't, but theoretically, let's say theoretically, you would bring in Bieniemy, but then you would identify somebody on the staff. Okay, if Bieniemy leaves, which we know he probably will, this guy can step in. We can still keep a similar offense, very important piece, and allow our quarterback and our offense to grow. Yep. What we did this year, this has nothing. Well, it has to do with the coordinator leaving, but Nick Sirianni basically took a gun and shot himself in both his feet and his shoulder, and then said, "Now we're going to go out here and play."
This is a perfect time for Nick Sirianni. Or
yes, sir.
You brought it up.
Yes,
Nick Sirianni literally shot himself in both his feet
and his shoulder.
So we're going to play a game of Nick Sirianni or next year. The Philadelphia. Now, I want you to stop for a minute, okay? I want you to understand what it means if the Eagles fire their head coach after making the playoffs all 3 seasons he's been here and have to hire a new coach, a new personnel, what it means to Jalen, what it means to the team. So before you just say everyone that I say over Nick Sirianni, I want you to just think, okay?
We're talking about if he got fired this year, who it's this person or Nick Sirianni. We're pretending if he got fired.
Well, we're pretending if we're going to fire him for this person.
For this person, yeah.
Okay.
So we'll start with Eric Bieniemy as your head coach. Nick Sirianni or Eric Bieniemy as your head coach. Now, keep in mind, you can bring in Frank Wright. You can bring in Josh McCown. You can bring in Deuce Staley and keep Nick.
I'm staying with Nick at that point. I don't know if that's enough of a needle mover. Me. The thing is, I'm not good organizations don't keep firing coaches, man. That's a bad trend to get in.
Yep.
I don't know if this is unless he gets blown out. I don't know if it's a fireable offense, but I'm going to stay. I'm going to stick. If we're just talking head coach, I'm going to stick with Nick right now.
Okay.
Right now.
Cool.
I'm going to go with Bieniemy.
I'm going to go with Bieniemy also.
We just said he's a guy that's going to hold guys responsible. He's going to coach his quarterback, even if he's the head coach. He's going to be hands-on, but he's going to bring new ideas. He's going to run the ball. He's still going to do those things as a head coach. And he's going to go out and get an OC who has a similar mindset to come in with him. So I would go with Bieniemy.
I'm going with Eric Bieniemy also. Next name on the list is Ben Johnson, offense coordinator from the Detroit Lions. I'll start with this one. I would go with Ben Johnson. I think Ben Johnson has created a very successful offensive system in Detroit, and I think he will be a head coach. I think he's going to get the head coaching job in Carolina. So I don't think we'll have much to worry about there, but I think Ben Johnson would be 100% an upgrade over Nick Sirianni.
Yeah. I'm not going to say Ben. If I put Eric above Ben personally, so I can't go
But
that
I have him 6 in one, half a dozen in the other. I think they're very equal.
I'm gonna go Ben Johnson too.
Okay.
I'm gonna go Ben Johnson too.
Next one. This is a pretty interesting one. Steve Wilkes or Nick Sirianni?
No. No.
I'm staying with Nick here.
Yeah, I think I'll stay with Nick. I think Steve will come in and be a little bit more abrasive, which I think is what got him ran out of Carolina. He's going to come in and he's going to want things. Well, remember he was the interim coach.
They did
for
great.
Carolina, and then they didn't want him because all the reports here is that he's strong-willed and he wasn't like a yes man to the idiot ownership here. And he was like, "No, we don't want that. We want a guy that we can kind of control a little bit." Which
the reason Howie would never hire him because they can't
control him. So that's why I'm going to go ahead and stay with Nick because they're not going to hire. They're not going to hire him here.
Okay, so we're all staying with Nick Sirianni there.
I think. I mean, I wouldn't consider Schwartz a yes guy. Howie hired that guy, didn't he?
He wasn't the head coach.
Jim Harbaugh.
Oh, I'm taking Jim all day. There's no doubt about that. Yeah, I'm taking Jim.
Cool.
This one's close. I would lean slightly towards Jim, but my hesitation would be his track record in the NFL. He don't stay around long NFL teams. So that would be my hesitation.
But you're right about that, cool. But that general manager was a complete asshole that he was dealing with at the end of his career. That guy sucks. That general manager ran him out of football, and I would have left if I was him too.
You're absolutely right. It was the 49ers GM before John Lynch. Forget his name, but absolutely.
Trent Baalke was a
Trent Baalke, no. That's it.
Isn't that jerk off in Jaguars right now too?
Yeah,
in Jacksonville. He's doing great down there in Jacksonville.
Next one on the list. I have two more. Bill Belichick.
Bill. Yep. You want your defense to be good, and you already got a quarterback here. And listen, I know people don't want to hear this, and I saw it in the comments. I'm not afraid of Josh McDaniels being an OC. Okay.
I'll say Nick Sirianni. I cannot do that. I cannot have Josh.
Nick too.
I cannot have Josh McDaniels be my OC.
I don't want him to be OC either, but I will still take Bill.
I can't have Bill O'Brien be my OC. I can't have that. That would ruin.
Yeah, I'll stay with Nick.
You have that's a whole.
By the way, you must hate AJ Brown because he betrayed it like yesterday.
Well, that's a Hall of Fame defensive mind there that people have been downplaying and not giving him credit.
That's great, but I wouldn't want him here with our personnel and stuff. I wouldn't want him here.
Well, that's the thing. This is what's going to happen with Bill Belichick.
Square peg, round hole.
He and this is why he's parting ways in New England. Very similar to the Andy Reid leaving. They don't want him being the GM anymore. It will come out. By the way, Vrabel did that on purpose because he knew it was going to happen. That's for next show. So everybody felt sorry for him. Nah, he was like, guys, fire me. I'll do you a solid. But anyway, back to Belichick. If he goes to a place and they're like, you just coach football, he will be phenomenal. If he doesn't pick the personnel, I'm okay with it. If he picks the personnel, I'm out. I don't want anything to do with the GM, Bill Belichick.
Our two best offensive weapons will be gone when he gets here. Yep. Jalen Hurts is not going to work for him as a quarterback, and A.J. Brown is not going to fall in line and say, "Yassa."
This guy had Randy Moss that had one of his best seasons ever.
How many years did he have Randy? How many years?
Like three. Like 3.
Year and a half.
It was only a year and a half. Are you sure?
A year and a half.
Trade him in the second year. They were having issues.
Correct.
My next one and the last one. Well, I'll go 2 more because there's a new one. Brian Flores.
Brian.
I'm probably staying Nick. I love Brian, but I'd probably stay Nick here. And I'm just being honest. I don't want to revert the entire culture. And Brian Flores is not an offensive guy. I think we can get a defensive coordinator that would stay here. So I'll probably stay with Nick here.
That's tough for me.
I love Brian Flores.
That's tough for me. but I'm going to stay Nick on that one. I do like Brian a lot.
And last one, I think this will be unanimous. I don't think this will be close, but Mike Rabel.
Mm.
What do you mean? I'll take.
Yeah,
Rabel.
I'm going Vrabel.
Rabel. Like, are we
And
serious?
the reason I would take Flores real quick is because when I look at Flores, I see a guy you could still bring in a Wheaton Martindale or somebody, right? Because Flores is a defensive coach, but he, from everything in Miami outside of, when they let him go for the BS they let him go for, he did a good job of letting coordinators be coordinators. He didn't be one of those guys that had to, because I'm a defensive coach, my hands got to be all over the defense. I'll hire somebody who knows how to run the defense I want to run. And then if I feel like I need to interject, I will. But I'll also say, hey, as a defensive coach, this is what I think you should not do on offense, because based on who we're playing and what they're running, this is probably not going to work. Right.
You said something so smart. Cool. A head coaching job is to create a culture and let his coordinators know how he'd like the team run. The coordinator's job is to run the offense or run the defense.
Mm-hmm.
That is exactly how it's supposed to work in the NFL. It doesn't work that way in a lot of systems, but a head coach's job is to create a culture and let his coordinators know the type of scheme that he'd like to run.
I have a dark horse candidate for head coach that has an offensive mind. People probably won't like this one, but what about Alex Van Pelt, offensive coordinator for the Browns?
I think that nothing against Alex, and I think Alex did a great job this year. But I think that's Kevin Stefanski's system. I think that's Kevin Stefanski's writing on it. And Alex Van Pelt's done a great job, right? Like I guess
he's BJ that works, basically, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it'll be interesting to see how this offseason transpires. But we got a game to talk about. We have a playoff game to talk about. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Philadelphia Eagles. We've seen this game play out before. And the Philadelphia Eagles ran the ball down their throat. That was DeAndre Swift's coming out party.
Then he went back in.
Yeah, listen, that was DeAndre Swift's coming out party. And
the Vikings was that, or that was the week before.
The Vikings was the week before, but he also had a great game, both these games, so we can talk about both of them being their coming out party. But I think that he had a great game versus the Buccaneers. And when I looked at the box score, he had 16 carries for 130 yards. Gainwell had 14 carries for 43, and Hurts had 10 carries. They ran the ball 40 times in that football game, and they won it going away. Game wasn't close. It was 25-3 before the Bucs scored a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. That game was never in doubt. You tell me. I think that. And by the way, they ended that game with the ball, starting the ball with 9 minutes left, and they kneeled the ball. So just to be clear, they got the ball with 9 minutes left in that game, and they played keep away for 9 minutes and won that football game. That was incredible. I would love to see more of the same. These teams have went different trajectories since then. The Bucs got hot. They went on a great run. And the last 2 weeks, they have not looked good at all. They're banged up, just like Philadelphia is. Philadelphia is really not banged up. They're relatively healthy going into the playoffs. But yeah, so Darius Slay and James Bradbury did a good job with Godwin and Evans. They had a total of 8 catches for 92 yards between the two of them combined. A.J. Brown went off that game. He had 9 catches for 131. That started his 125 streak. Both A.J. Brown and DeAndre Swift had field days versus this Bucs team. Your thoughts? Let's talk about it. It should be worth noting that Todd Bowles blitzes the third most in the NFL.
We seem to be having trouble with the blitz.
Yep,
right
cannot
now.
pick it up.
So
By the way, there's a script to beat the Philadelphia Eagles. Do you know the script? It's very easy. Blitz Jalen from his right side, so he has to roll left. And it's a script, and every team's doing it. And their left end plays contain, and they blitz him from the right side. That's the script to beat the Philadelphia Eagles. Blitz from the right, contain on the left. You win the game.
Yeah. This is a very different team from where that team was, in my opinion, as far as how they're performing on the field in that game. And, there's less margin for error. And in that game where the Eagles won, Jalen had 2 interceptions. Now, I can't remember if they were his fault. It was a tip pass or it was a bad route run by receiver or miscommunication. But the point is the way this team is performing, they don't have a margin of error to give up a couple turnovers to still win the football game, right? They shoot themselves in the foot constantly. There'll be a drive where they're going down the field and a penalty they're screwed. Forget the rest of the drive. They're fucked because they just had a penalty for 10 yards. We've seen it constantly. And while I want to say the Eagles should win this, I think this is going to be a closer game than people realize. I look at Baker Mayfield. No, he's not a star, but do I believe he could pass against the Eagles like Kyler Murray was or Tyrod Taylor? I know Baker's better than Tyrod in my opinion, but okay. I know Kyler Murray's better than Baker, but Geno Smith, he didn't play the night, but Drew Lock had his way with us down the stretch. You see what I'm saying? So
I remember both those interceptions. If you like, I can remind you of both. The one was like the 5-yard play to DeAndre Swift that the defensive lineman tipped. Levante David picked off in the middle of the field. And then the other one was the ridiculous play by the safety on a deep ball to Devontae Smith. It was at the 1-yard line. The Eagles threw like a
I remember
deep pass,
now.
and the safety came across and made the pick and tiptoed at the 1-yard line. It was an incredible play. I didn't fault Jalen for that pass. I don't think he should have made it. The safety got there a lot faster than I expected him to or anticipated him to. But I didn't really fault Jalen for that pass then. Looking back at it now, it looks like more of Jalen trying to force a ball to AJ or Devontae. But at the time, I remember watching it and saying, well, that was a really good play by the defender.
Yeah, you got to get to the outside on this team with the run. They can do it definitely. You can pass on this team, on that defense. I'm not really concerned. I think the Eagles can score, but the ability to stop people, Godwin and Evans are good receivers. Cade Otton's no slouch either. I mean, can they stop them? I don't really have any confidence. Again, are we going to still drop Hassan Reddick in coverage? Like, that's wild. It's a different team. So they have to play mistake-free football to win this game. There can't be turnovers. That can't happen. I know that sounds redundant. Everybody says every week, but this is something where they can't shoot themselves in the foot. And it's just poor execution, lack of concentration, bad scheme you want to talk to. I don't. Are we going to see bubble screens still? Are we going to see shit like that? Like, is it going to be more of the same, just a different week? Every week, last 6 weeks, we're optimistic. We talk about this team be good. This is how they can win. And they do the exact fucking opposite. So I'm at the point where I'm starting to believe my eyes. Like they are who they are. And I don't know, man. Can they go on the road and stop Mike Evans and Chris Godwin? That's a fair question.
I think the beautiful part of the fact that they're throwing the Mike Evans and Chris Godwin is it plays into the Philadelphia Eagles' strength defensively. When you're throwing to the outside receivers, it actually helps us in the long run getting Slay back. Every game for the last, I looked up 7 of them that Mike Evans and Chris Godwin played. Baker Mayfield has thrown them ball between 15 and 20 times. The targets that they've had have been between 15 and 20 combined. So the majority of their passes are to Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. That makes sense. I think that the Philadelphia Eagles defense is relatively healthy right now. Obviously, the safety position is a little bit of an issue. With Reed Blankenship having that groin injury, it looks like he's going to give it a go. With Sidney Brown tearing his ACL, so he will obviously not be out there.
Jesus. I forgot if that happened last week. Man, awful, and it's in late in the season too, man. I hope they can.
Yeah, you probably won't have him for next year. That's
awful.
You could probably write that one off. Definitely terrible. But I'm not optimistic about the Eagles playoffs. I'm not optimistic about what we're doing. I will say this: I do think they beat the Buccaneers, and I'll tell you why. Right, and I'll go right to Cool because I really want to hear his thoughts on this. But I think that Baker Mayfield is not the type of quarterback that can dice up this defense. He's not accurate. He doesn't see things. He's not an anticipatory thrower. So I don't think Baker Mayfield's the type of guy that can dice up this defense. And I think the Eagles showed that the first time they played them. I actually don't think the Buccaneers offensive line is good enough to contain even the Eagles who have looked terrible at getting a pass rush. I don't think the Buccaneers offensive line will be able to contain the Eagles' pass rush. They have Tristan Wirfs, who's battling an injury, Cody Mauch, and then a bunch of journeymen and guys that aren't really that good. I mean, Hainsey is okay, but there's not many very good linemen on that team, and Tristan Wirfs is really battling. Like, I don't think if this was a regular season game, Tristan would be out there. So he's still listed as questionable for the game, but it does look like he's going to play. That's huge for them because he is one of their best offensive linemen. He probably is their best offensive lineman. So, but I think the Eagles can run the ball, and I think the Eagles will be able to actually slow down Baker Mayfield. So that's my thoughts. Cool. Where do you go in this game? What's your thoughts on it? How do you feel like this game goes?
Honestly, I think this is a 50-50 game. We don't know what Philadelphia Eagles team is going to show up. We don't know which Tampa Bay team is going to show up. We don't know which Jalen Hurts is going to show up. We don't know which Baker Mayfield is going to show up. I'm obviously going to go Eagles in the 50-50 because I feel like they have more talent. So I feel like if they both play the same, whether that's bad or whether that's good, the talent difference, we should be able to win. But the problem always is for the Philadelphia Eagles, the guy I like to call Nicky Tight Pants or Silly Sirianni, because the things that he wants to do offensively or expects to happen offensively don't make sense with the Tecmo Bowl playbook that we use. I'll be honest, man. When I see the Philadelphia Eagles line up now on offense, my mind just goes, and I feel like, you know how in Tecmo Bowl, when the defense picks the right play to go against your offense, it's just like this all-out blitz. I feel like that's what happens to us the whole game. So I honestly feel like I'm watching Tecmo Bowl in human form when I watch the Philadelphia Eagles play now. I feel like we do the same 8 plays. So the thing is, are we going to run the ball? If we run the ball like we did the last time we played them, it gives us a much better chance no matter how we show up, right? We have, 3 Pro Bowlers on the offensive line, and there's still so much confusion on who should block where that the blitz is killing Jalen Hurts. When you run the ball with Jalen Hurts, he doesn't throw the ball away, though he's still a quarterback. He slides down 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage. So you lose yards on all those plays. So it just depends on what we do. If we do the same thing we've been doing, expect a different outcome, we know what that means. So I think we can win this game. But even if we do, I'm not all of a sudden, the Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl. No. And any of that, just like, we at least got a playoff win. Yay.
Cool. You're too kind. I was thinking more of 10-yard fight, if you remember that game on Nintendo. So, I mean, I'm thinking the offense is resemble. There's a little bit too much fluidity in Tecmo Bowl right there. I'm with you. Cool. That's how I feel. It's like it's like Dr. Jekyll and Hyde. I hope you're right, Gene, but I want to ask you guys this question. Let's say they beat, right? It looks like there's a great possibility they could be playing the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Would you rather lose to the Buccaneers or lose to the Cowgirls in the second round?
I would rather lose to the Buccaneers than get blown out by the Cowboys.
So would I. So that's why I think they're going to absolutely beat the Buccaneers, just so we have to live through that. That's why I think that's going to happen.
But I will say this. This is one thing I will bring up, and I think Cool will agree with me here. A lot of things change when the Cowboys get in the playoffs, man. I've watched that team in the playoffs year after year after year, and games that they're expected to win, they just don't show up. Now, I think this is one of the easiest games to pick this week. I think the Cowboys destroy the Green Bay Packers.
Agree.
But I'm telling you, man, there's something weird about that Cowboys team, and there's something weird about Mike McCarthy. It's not the first time that these guys have been in this position, and it seems like they always find ways to mess it up. Going back to the Garoppolo game in Dallas, do you remember the quarterback draw and the slide down, and they were mad because the referees needed to spot the ball and they ran out of time running a quarterback draw with no timeouts left?
Yeah.
They run a lot of stupid plays in the playoffs, man.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you never know in the playoffs, and it does become a new season. I just don't,
I think the Eagles have lost.
Did we bring up Chad Johnson comments, right?
Oh, God.
About the Eagles playing possum? I mean, do we really believe that? Come on.
No.
I wasn't going to bring him up because if he's right.
Here you go. He's my counterfeit green. He's my counterfeit green. Chad Johnson for saying that stupid ass shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I brought it up for you.
I just, I heard that. I was, I don't know, man. A lot of people, we're not very optimistic right now, and the Eagles haven't given us reason to be optimistic. I mean, there's just stuff that's not happening. Every week we hear the same thing. We gotta come together. We got show it. I'm tired of hearing it. You know what I mean?
I don't want to hear any more talk.
Yeah.
Shut up and do it on the field, or shut up and just don't do it on the field. I'm tired of the talk. Blah, blah, blah. We've been hearing the same thing. The only thing that changed is Sirianni can't any longer say, but it's hard to win in the NFL and we're winning. We are in the position that we're in now because he didn't have the foresight to say, yeah, we are winning, but we're looking bad. Let's fix things now. Let's not wait until it comes crashing down.
Yeah, like Fletch saying, you know how hard it is to win 11 games? You know how hard it is to make the playoffs? I was like, stop it. Stop it.
I wish they would stop talking.
Yeah. Dallas
how hard it is to, what my counterfeit green is while we're doing counterfeit greens? It's every freaky interview I hear from the Philadelphia Eagles. That's my counterfeit green.
I mean, that's fair. I got a counterfeit green. Counterfeit green is, Nick Sirianni just, when you look back at some of the stuff he did, after the Chiefs game, right? Which we all agree, if we're having a different conversation and MVS knows how to catch. When for you to not be aware of the moment and react that way, most coaches would be like, I'll take the W, but I just got away with one. Right?
Yeah.
And he didn't have that presence of mind. I mean, that's just something where his whole attitude, and it's permeating through the players. I don't get certain things, and I'm starting to get scared. I hope this isn't the case, but if they do get blown out, and I don't think they will, but if they do, I think he could be on the unemployment line.
Oh, dude, absolutely. They lose this game 27-10. He's fired Monday. I don't think it gets to Tuesday.
Yeah.
They can fire him on his way off the field.
Yes. I don't think it gets to Tuesday.
It would be funny if that were to happen. Because, I mean, at this point, y'all, if we lose badly, I'm going to be just sitting there like,
I wouldn't be upset if they get blown out. If they lose, I want them to lose in outstanding fashion.
Yeah, I wouldn't even be mad anymore because they showed me who they are, like I said. But it would be funny if they were to lose and then Jeffrey Lurie just walks out, goes up to Nick Sirianni and just hands him a big pink slip of paper.
The other counterfeit green is when they wanted to act like the move from Matt Patricia to Sean Desai was not a panic move and it was rather strategy. That was the most panic move of panic moves. And for them to say, well, we didn't want to let other people know. You weren't fooling anybody. This ain't Tecmo Bowl or 10-yard fight, motherfucker. This is the NFL. Like, did they think that an NFL team think you would install a brand new defensive scheme within a week with a brand new guy? No. Come on, man. You were putting a mishmash defense out there that, I don't even know.
Worse, honestly.
It looks worse. Yeah. I don't even know.
Because nobody knows what to do. They don't understand where to be. So it is worse.
They should have left Desai in there. They should have left Desai. They were panicking. That was not a good move. Do I like him? Do I think he's great? No. But
he didn't make adjustments in the game.
Patricia didn't. But listen, then bring Patricia down as a special assistant to tell him to do that or hold him accountable somehow, because maybe that's what they were doing. But the way they sold it and they were trying to put it under, that was so counterfeit. I mean, come on, man. Like, it's a panic move.
All right, guys, I need score predictions before we wrap up. Give me your score prediction for the game, Godfrey. I'll start with you.
0-0. No, I'm gonna go. I think it's gonna be closer than people really want it to be. So I'm going something like 25-21.
Okay.
I'm going 28-20.
You both have the Eagles winning?
Yes.
I'll go 27-17 Philadelphia. And I think we'll actually head into, just to be clear, I want to end on this script writing that the NFL has done. And I'll end on this note. Tyreek Hill returns to Kansas City. You got Matt Stafford returning to Detroit. You got a lot of different things going across the NFL. If the Browns win, Joe Flacco returns to Baltimore.
Don't forget Jared Goff playing.
Jared Goff versus his old team with Matt Stafford.
Yep.
McCarthy versus the Packers. Even though Rodgers ain't there anymore, so it's not really.
McCarthy versus the Packers. And then next week, you're going to get KC Buffalo. You're going to get Flacco versus his old team, Baltimore. You're going to get McVay versus Shanahan. And
What
you're
I
going to
will
get
say is-
Philly versus Dallas.
They're
what I
gonna
will
need.
say is, if I had to play a team in the playoffs that's not like the NFC South winner, I want it to be Dallas because the best part of this game, right? Let's say it happens. Let's say we get against Dallas, and somehow, some way, these players find some testicular fortitude and are embarrassed by the way Dallas whipped your butt and then chopped up and talked trash about you, and go out there and whoop they candy ass.
Whoop that trick.
That would be great.
I'm with it.
That's a
What-
wonderful.
I'm the NFL genius, Gene Walzak. That's taking it deep with D. Godfrey. Mr. Cool McCain from Eagles Elite Podcast. We're going to talk about the Birds. We're going to talk about the Birds next week. We're guaranteed to be here for at least one more week. So thank you guys for tuning in. Any final thoughts, gentlemen?
Just be prepared for the unknown. That's all I can tell you with the Eagles so far.
All right. Well, tune in to Sideline. The Sideline will be live in 13 minutes. I appreciate everybody jumping in the chat. And y'all have a great night.